Hey everyone, and welcome back to the Secret Sunday session. Today I'm joined by Ivan Cleary, who's a former NRL player and is the current coach of the Penrith Panthers. And today we're going to be hearing about Ivan's story as well as discussing the need to look after yourself in the playing industry, no matter what sport that you are pursuing, as well as looking after your mental health and well-being. So welcome, Ivan. Thank you so much for joining us.
No worries, Ashley. Happy to be here.
Now, first of all, now obviously I know who you are, and a lot of people within the rugby league community would know as well. But for those who are not aware of who you are, who is Ivan Cleary and what does he do with himself?
Yeah, well, as you said in your intro, I currently am the head coach of the Penrith Panthers in the National Rugby League. Um, Before that, I've been a head coach since going into my 18th season as a head coach. Um, Before that, I was a player. I played for four different clubs: the Manly Seagulls, the North Sydney Bears, the Sydney Roosters, and the New Zealand Warriors over a 12-year period. Um, Yeah, so rugby league has been my life, my professional life, basically. Um, I grew up on the northern beaches of Sydney. I'm the youngest of three boys. Sport was very big in my family, in my household. My parents played sport. Yeah, like if I could have had a perfect life, it would have been um, to be able to become a professional athlete. Uh, that was just a dream, but it did come true, and I'm still avoiding having a proper job all these years later. So, yeah, I feel very fortunate that I've been able to be, yeah,
Mm,
not just love sport, but yeah, it's my profession, my passion, and
mm,
yeah, I'm a lucky man.
It is. It is one of those privileges, I think, that I remember a lot of people always mention to me, if you can find a career where you don't work a day in your life, then you're winning at life. And
Mm,
I feel like sport can really give that to a lot of people. And especially growing up in Australian culture, we really push sport as almost our number one driver in order to succeed in life. That is part of our culture here in Australia. And how did you find that when you were young? Did you find a pressure that you had to be part of sport or you generally had a love for it?
no, I definitely had a love for it. It's one of those things that, excuse me, it's one of those things that I guess the higher level you go up, um, the more pressure that comes with it. Even when I was playing junior sport, my dad was coach. I felt a little bit of pressure even there because I knew how much dad loved winning and how much he wanted us to do well. So that was the thing I love about most about sport is that it actually gives you so many life lessons. Um, whether it be handling pressure or playing in a team and being able to connect with people, highs and lows of life. Uh, Even little things like injuries and setbacks, and just so many things that can actually help you, in other aspects of your life. So that's
Mm.
another great part about sport. But I genuinely loved it, and I loved all different types of it as well. But I ended up gravitating definitely to team sports.
Because why rugby league? I mean, there is a lot of sports you can choose from being very lucky where we are here in Australia. But was rugby league something that your family just grew up with?
That's a good question, and not really. We were definitely rugby league fans. The NRL or the ARL or even the Sydney competition as it was back then. Um, we definitely all watched it and supported it. And I was a Balmain Tigers fan myself. So was my dad. My brother supported other teams. We used to play in the backyard and play for school, but we were into more other sports. Like my winter sport was soccer. Growing up, I played at rep level all the way through to being a teenager, mid-teens actually, late teens. Um, did athletics when I was young. Little athletics was pretty good at that. Got into cricket. Got into surfing when I was like a early teens as well. So that was kind of
Did it
yeah.
all.
Whatever was on TV, we played pretty much. Played golf, played tennis. Yeah, just did everything. But rugby league sort of came about because I just lost my love of soccer and I could play rugby league. I was from the Northern Beaches, so like Manly was our local team, and they were always been a strong club. And I just kind of got an opportunity to trial for their under-21s team back in those days, and just tried and made it. And the following year, I was playing NRL, so it's just kind of I sort of fell into it. I fell into coaching later as well, so I've been, as I said, been very fortunate.
Was there a certain point where I know you said it happened quite quickly, you started playing, then all of a sudden the following year you're in the NRL, but was there a certain point when you realized that it went from, say, playing for the love of it and playing just as a hobby to, all right, I'm actually pretty good at this and I could take this seriously and actually go somewhere with my career?
Yeah, definitely. It was sort of when I was leaving school. I went to university, but I was only going to university just because it was going to lead me onto a job. But it was a job that I didn't really want to do, and you know what I mean. I didn't really have anything where I wanted to be this or that.
Mm.
As I said, when I was a kid, I mean, all I could dream about was being a professional sportsman. So the rugby league kind of angle came up, and I thought, I liked the game, but I thought I was actually more in love with the thought of whatever sport it was. If I could be professional, that
Mm.
that was what I was in love with. So, on my
Mm.
real mission. So that's what I
Mm.
did. So, like when you're say 18, 19, and all your mates are going out, and I was certainly going out. But I did start prioritizing and
Mm.
um, making some sacrifices in order to give myself the best opportunity of this avenue I saw. So
Mm.
you had to be a little bit lucky. A few things fell my way as well, but yeah, that was the kind of state. That was the age or the stage where I guess I charted my course to try and give myself the best opportunity um,
Mm.
to reach the goals that I'd set myself.
Is it a hard transition from playing it for fun and locally and with probably below level teams in the NRL to then stepping up and playing an NRL game?
Yeah, I think I was most when I first played, NRL. That's when I really noticed that I'd played sort of lower grades for a while, and I just kind of was like enjoying the step up each time I did it. Um, but the NRL was another world, like in terms of
Mm.
responsibility and all of a sudden when you're playing NRL as opposed to the lower grades, you're actually responsible for a professional sporting club's bottom line. And
Mm.
that's what it becomes. It's like a business. So it's not just about you having fun or playing or doing well for yourself. You got to perform in order for the club to be successful. So yeah, that was it was a bit of a roller coaster actually. When I first got in, I went okay, but then I sort of dropped back out of first grade and it was almost like I was scrambling just to make a contract and
Mm.
get another start the next year. So
Mm.
um, yeah, that was actually good sort of wake up or an introduction into like this is the
Mm.
business world of sport.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, and I guess that's the difference when it becomes business, and then it's a challenge to try and keep it, fun and the love of what you always wanted because you don't want it to turn into a job or just a job if you want because
Mm.
then you'll never be at your best either.
Did playing ever become that for you, a job?
Would have at times. That's probably when you realise that you've got to change something, whether it's your attitude or talk to some people about it. Usually, if it's becoming just a job, if there's something that's weighing you down, it's not allowing you to play freely and enjoy yourself.
Mm.
It's probably could be pressure, just getting overwhelmed.
Mm.
And it's funny when I played, we didn't really talk about that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, whereas now there's like we talk about it all the time, and we actually deliberately um, deliberately teach and review and all that stuff around mental skills and coping and yeah, so it's much better um, opportunity for players to be better educated and yeah, I guess for want of a better term, hold someone's hand through that
Mm.
murky world of pressure and professionalism and expectations and being out there in front of everybody and emotionally exposed. It's as much as it sounds like I'm not making it sound like a great life, am I? But but that's what it is, and that's the beauty of it. It's like any performer. You got to go out and expose yourself to every judgment and failure and all that stuff. But that also allows the true magic to happen as well.
Because I think there's a lot of criticism around that as well, that we're almost living in a softer culture because we're implementing a lot more mental health safe practices and telling players, not just players, but everybody to speak up more, share what's on their mind, share the burden. But there is, that other side to it where there is a lot of backlash where people are saying, nah, we need sportsmen to be tougher than that. And what is your opinion on that? Do you think that implementing these practices now are so much better for teams and for players to perform?
100%. And that's got nothing to do with anyone being tough or hard, or it actually allows them to be even harder and more courageous because they're facing more things. It's courageous to be able to speak up in the first place, to acknowledge weaknesses or things that you fear, because for so many years we've been thought it was hard and courageous and tough to deal with that ourselves and internalize it, when most of the time you end up just avoiding it, or it just creates more problems and in your life. So number one, it's courageous to actually speak up, to admit that maybe you haven't got it all covered. Things do scare you, and that opens up the world of, hey, everybody says, oh wow, I'm not the only one having these thoughts, and then you can collaborate and talk about it as a community, and that only helps you perform better. In the biggest moments, under the most pressure, if you've actually gone, spoken about it, or even practiced it and come up with strategies to be able to deal with that, you're actually going to play better. And that's what everybody wants.
It's interesting because I think a lot of players as well think that if they don't speak about how they're feeling, or sorry, if they do speak about how they're feeling, that their coach will then potentially drop them the next week, and then they miss out on that opportunity to play or to perform, and this could be their only shot. And obviously you transitioning into a coaching role, do you see it as a weakness, or not even as a weakness, but do you think about that if a player comes to you and says, I'm struggling, maybe I've got to bench this person for a week?
So that's a really good point. And the beauty of being able to be in a professional environment, we've got more staff. So we have a wellbeing department that is growing, not necessarily through numbers of staff or whatever, but in terms of its value and its usage here. So we have, we try and provide a safe environment to start with. Safe being on the psychological front. So we try and provide an environment that where you're going to turn up to work, you're not going to get judged. You can be from any background. You can have your own style, coloured hair, like tattoos, whatever. As long as you kind of live the values of our team and work together as a unit, then you can be whoever you want to be. So that's what we try and do on a daily basis. We have avenues where players are encouraged to talk to our wellbeing department in a way where, they know that I'm not gonna. They can have a conversation where I, as head coach, will never know about, or they can say, they want me to know about it, but maybe not just yet. And it might end up, we'll work around that, because the fact is, if someone is struggling, then and they're not performing, then I may have to bench them, or nothing like against them personally. So I think it's important for them to be able to talk to someone else, where they know they can deload, some of the pressures or struggles they're having, and it won't immediately impact their position in the team or whatever. But I also, I'll talk to Kevin Kingston, our wellbeing manager, about this regularly, where he won't tell me what's going on, but I like to tell him that, that and I have to perform this as well and show the boys that, I am considerate of their issues and their problems, and you can only do that through actions. They're only going to trust me through the way I act. You can talk it all you want, but that's something that I can, I take that responsibility very seriously, and it's something that I try to show through my relationships on a daily basis.
And do you find as well that's something that you then try to show as well? I know you said earlier that you started playing and this was something that was not a conversation when you were playing or even growing up, and now having to enter into a very open world where you have to be open with how you're feeling and your emotions, in order to almost represent that this is how a player not should act but should be open to being. Do you find that you're open with your players and honest with how you're feeling and your mental health?
It's definitely something I'm conscious of. Yeah. We have the first meeting we have in every day is run by, again, Kevin, our wellbeing manager. He'll do an interview with a player or staff member in front of everybody. First member of the day. It's a trust building exercise, and I'm pretty much the one that I get it done first each and every year. And I'm conscious of being able to be vulnerable and in front of the boys and show that it's not a weakness, and we all have everyone's got a hard luck story. Everyone's going through stuff on varying levels, but you can't judge someone else's level to be worse than anyone else's, because everyone feels it differently and has different circumstances. So it's something I as a leader, and if you want to have a certain environment, you gotta show the way.
And how have you found the coaching position coming from a former player?
Well, as I said, I've been a head coach in the NRL now for 18 years, so it's certainly changed a lot. I've probably gone from a coach where I started, where I came out of being a player. I hadn't really done any, I hadn't really prepared for it. It just kind of happened. Someone saw it in me. Someone saw that, the potential in me, and that was quite humbling. But really, I wasn't really prepared, other than just my knowledge of the game through playing and those experiences. So I kind of just fumbled my way through it and survived for a while. I didn't really delegate very well at all at the start, whereas now I delegate almost everything. I've sort of gone from a coach to now I'm a leader, I would say, or a manager, where I give responsibility to a lot of my staff members, where I would never have done that in the early days. So I've just had to learn how to do that, learn how to let people make mistakes without treading all over them. Such a big journey, and learned so many different things, and still learning, and that's the cool thing.
And I mean, you say you've been it for 18 years, but you've done some amazing things in that time. I mean, we talk about the consecutive grand final wins within that. What do you think is, I think everyone's looking for that magic answer, which obviously there is not one, but what do you think gets your team over the line to every season, not just turn up to a grand final, but be better than the other teams and be able to take them out?
Yeah, I probably should point out that it took me 15 years to win a premiership.
Nobody sees the journey.
I've been lucky enough to win 3 in a row the last 3 years. We've had 4 years, in fact, here where we've won an enormous amount of games and been really consistent. But it's not always like that. I guess first and foremost, I think the most important part of my role is to create an environment that people can be their best in, be able to perform at their best, reach their goals. But it's also about not just about all the individuals, it's about how they connect together. That's the real key. in sport, in professional sport or any sport, to be honest. It's almost a multiplier effect of all the talent of all the individuals, and they connect, and then one plus one equals three, sort of thing. That's kind of how, I put the program together, how we work every day, get them to understand the value of teamwork, for example, articulate what our culture is, what it looks like, what it feels like, and what it should act like, and then just drive that and like a good garden. You've just got to look after it, because if you leave it alone for a while, it can kind of run wild. So you've got to have talented players, of course, but most NRL teams have got talented players. They all have talented players. They all spend the same amount of money on players. But I think it's the environment that's created. It's the fact that they're all working well together. That gives you the best chance to win.
And I mean, obviously, as well, you have your son playing in your team. There is, of course, and it's been happening for years. It's been happening when I was growing up and playing sport, and it still happens today, where people always have this assumption, even if there's not one there, that there is favoritism. How do you combat that, or how do you navigate your way through that conversation or that media noise that will often say that you may favoritize your son in the situation because he is in your team?
Yeah. I mean, I imagine it's just about every junior sporting team or amateur sporting team where there's a father-son, mother-son, mother-daughter, father-daughter combination there. So I know it's just anyone out there listening, it's a bit of a hot topic in sport. And the whole nepotism thing will always exist. There will always be someone who's left out or not getting the time they want, or whatever. It's just like an unconscious bias of as you said, favoritism towards the son or daughter. In my case, or in our case with Nathan, we spoke about it before we took it on together. We realized that it was going to be around. We realized that there was also some other stuff that we would never have seen coming, but we felt like our relationship was strong enough to be able to work it out as time went by. The first year together, we started very badly. Actually, we won 2 games out of our first 10. Nathan wasn't playing well. I felt like I'd come from the West Tigers. There was a lot of negative press around that and noise, and I felt that burdened that as well. So I felt burdened about that. I was just thinking, what have I done? It really wasn't working out. It was definitely affecting me. So I was probably thinking it was worse than it really was, and but in the end, we kind of got through that, and I feel like now it's a superpower, where our relationship's so strong, and there's no, like, he's our chief playmaker, and I trust him so much, and he trusts me, obviously. You just can't get a stronger bond than family. So I feel like it's a real advantage. Having said all that, this nepotism thing will always be there, and it's just for us to, we just try and worry about what we can control, and I'm always sort of conscious of, I guess, treating him like everybody else, which I try to do. When we're at work, it feels like more just coach player, and then we're away from that. It's a father-son thing. But even at work, he calls me dad in front of everyone, so that's kind of
That's nice.
it's sort of normal, yeah.
Do you still nitpick and fight at each other like a father and son relationship would be?
Well, our relationship never really been like that much.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah.
And family dinners, do you talk about work at family dinners?
Try not to, but sometimes. Yeah, sometimes. Yeah. Like, So it's not work actually. It's like that's the thing. It's you know
Yeah.
it's
Mm,
fun and it's a good chance for us actually in a more relaxed environment where we can just talk footy, and we've been doing that since he was a kid. And,
mm,
he loves it, and he watches a lot, watches all the other games, and a bit of a
mm,
student of the game. And yeah, it's really really fun, and the last few years have been amazing. But we know as well that anytime we're under pressure, it's going to be, I guess, magnified because of our
mm,
relationship as well.
Were you mindful as well? You mentioned earlier when you were growing up, you felt a little pressure from your father playing sport and wanting to succeed for him and make him feel happy. Are you mindful that you never wanted to put that onto Nathan as well?
Yeah, absolutely. And as I said, that first year in 2019, I felt terribly guilty about it, and I could see it was affecting him. Um, not because of really anything I did, I don't think, but it was just how it was, you know.
Mm,
Um, but that it was probably a good thing that we went through the hard times early,
mm,
because it sort of we doubled down on the fact that no, we really want to, we want to make this work. I had some real doubts about whether I wanted to keep going at that point. Um, but yeah, I was fortunate enough to have some good support around me, my wife in particular, but also my brothers. And, I sort of opened up to at that point about that. I was really struggling mentally for some time there, but I kind of got through that. And yeah, I've seen some blue skies in the last few years.
mm. When you say obviously that you went through such a tough time during that period, what would you say was some of the things that helped you get out of it?
Talking about it. I learned from my wife back um, probably about 10 years ago, that I needed to talk about the way I was feeling when I was feeling pressured or down or whatever. I used to internalize it. I felt like I would be burdening her if I spoke about it. She had enough to worry about with, like, we got 4 kids in those days. They were young family, and she had enough to worry about. This is how I thought anyway. I
Mm,
think this is where a lot of men make the mistake where you know they feel like you're putting a burden on someone else, or I should be able to work this out myself.
mm,
I remember her like getting quite stern with me. It's like, well, like, you not telling me is actually, that's, I feel a bit disrespected for that. Like, I'm here to help. And that was exactly the truth. So
mm,
yeah, so in this latest incident, like that's like 5 years ago, first thing I did was, she could see it anyway. Like, so we spoke. Then she actually asked for help from my brothers, saying that you know she was obviously helping me, but when she needed a bit more, a different angle, or someone who really knew me. And so that was really cool. And that's the first time that I'd ever really had that sort of conversation with my brothers. By the way, this is like I'm late 40s at that stage, and it's the first time
mm.
in my life that I'd spoken to my brothers like about that kind of stuff too. So yeah, it was in the end it was great for our relationship, and um, just just an insight into into how many other people would be going through similar stuff on a regular basis.
Mm. I think a lot of people as well don't know how to start or where to start in having those conversations. And I mean, based on your experience and what you went through, what was the easiest transition for you to ask for help or to go to your brothers and to start that conversation? What was the environment or what was those first words? Because I think a lot of people, as I mentioned, just get stuck with what do I say or what do I do?
Yeah, as well, I'm just trying to remember. As I said, my it all started for me with my wife.
Mm,
Um, I can't actually remember how I even got to that point. I think I was just, like I had to do something because I was, and that was a previous incident, like 10 or so years ago. I've had a few. I reckon I've probably
yeah.
had three in my 18-year career. I reckon I've had 3 times where I would definitely be. I would say I was depressed.
Yeah.
um, and it just overwhelmed with
Mm.
pressure of results or whatever.
Mm.
Um, and it was turns my brother was my wife that she started that. So she
Mm.
was smart enough and I guess vulnerable herself enough to say, hey, we need some help. So I don't have all the answers on that one. I think one thing we can all probably do is actually have a greater awareness of the people that we love um, and how they're going, and and just through conversation. I mean, I know there's obviously the "Are you okay" day and things like that, where the whole idea is obviously, yeah, just checking in on our loved ones or friends, or just being mindful of that people are that you will know people that are going through the struggle. Like if we all think of it like that, you'll know. And if we're just a little bit more aware and or ask the right questions, or just go to someone, um, I think that'll help someone rather than them having to always be the one to, because it's hard, as you said, it's hard to all of a sudden just start. And so sometimes you can help by just keeping an eye out for our for our mates.
Mm, absolutely. And do you feel the pressure's different now? I mean, as you said, you've won three premierships in a row, and it's almost a lot more pressure to stay on the top. Um, do you find you feel that pressure coming into a new season every year?
Yeah, I do. It is different pressure expectations, a little bit different, but I know I like that's what one of the things that motivates me is I've been there before when you're not winning and I don't like it. So I don't, I don't want to go back there. So, but I also understand that there's every chance it could happen. Um, I feel like I'm much better equipped to be able to deal with that through experience there. But the pressure
Mm,
is definitely there. But that's a weird thing about coaching is there's not much in between winning and losing. You either do one or the other. You rarely have a loss and go, oh well, it was a good loss, or and you can win, you can play really badly and win, but it still feels really good. Um,
mm,
so it's a strange life because it's just so up and down, and that can be on a weekly basis.
mm,
So you've got to be, yeah, like your support network's got to be good. You've got to be self-aware, around that sort of stuff as well.
mm,
Got to be able to have be able to get away from it as well, I reckon.
mm,
But the highs are so good that it's almost addictive. So you'll
mm,
you'll you'll cop a few lows just to be able to get back to sort of
mm.
bipolar existence, I suppose. I don't know.
Yeah. Do you regret anything in your career?
Not so much regret. I mean, it's all part of the journey. Like
Mm,
I look back and think, of course, I would have done a lot of things differently, but
mm,
I don't think that's regret so much. That's the ability to learn and learn through failure.
mm,
Um, I think it's okay to get things wrong and make the wrong decision or do something um, that you wouldn't have done. I've never really feel like I've done anything that's been to the obvious detriment of someone else. I always feel like I've tried to make the right decision at the right time, but think the fact is you don't. So I don't regret that stuff. Um, it's just wish it didn't happen, but that's different to regretting it. So,
mm,
but I think you also got to go through pain and suffering and failure, and that's what makes you stronger and better in the end.
mm. And I mean, we've talked a lot about who you are and who you turn up as a coach to your players, as well as, your son and your family members. But what type of coach do you want to be for your players, and what type of coach do you think a team needs?
Um, well, I'd always like to be considered, to be honest. I mean, I like, you know, if someone thinks that I'm not a good coach, or I can accept that, but I would be very just, I hate anyone to think that I was, dishonest with them, or um, I would say unfair. But sometimes I mean, fairness is it's a big scale, depending on who's who's making the decision, or the questioning of they putting the value on it. So that's the first thing. I think it's not. It's important to be respected as a coach, but I think it's also helps to be liked. I don't think it's. I would never want to do something where everyone thinks I'm a dick. But it's also not a popularity competition as well. So you got to know what you're doing. You got to be able to connect with people. You got to be resilient. And as I said earlier, you've got to provide the sort of environment that can give people the best opportunity to succeed. And I happen to think that is part of that is enjoying what you do. So I guess that's what I'd like to be known as. It's not something I consider that often, though. My job's to win games. That's as simple as that.
You said it comes back to business.
Well, it does. I mean, like if I was coaching a junior team or something where winning was still important, but it wasn't the be all and end all, I perhaps would have different priorities. But in my role here, like it's about winning. If we're not winning, then I'll be out of a job pretty fast. So the the club won't be succeeding. So that's unfortunately, fortunately or unfortunately, that's the way it is. So that's
I was going to say, do you ever live in the fear that while you're enjoying it so much now, that it could all be taken away?
Yes, I do, and that's a real fear for me. That's I guess that's that expectation thing we were talking about before, where the more success you have, the more the fear for me is going backwards. We're going back to and that can easily happen, especially in a league like ours, which is it's very much a parity league. Like we have a salary cap, and pretty much every time you succeed, the way the league works, they want to try to even it out. So that's a challenge for us every year, and it just shows that you can. There's certainly nothing guaranteed about being up the top, and that could change really quickly. So I definitely fear that. Yeah.
Do you know what else you would do if you weren't in rugby league?
No, I'm sure I could find something.
Wouldn't revisit the surfing passion?
Yeah, well,
pick one of the other sports.
Oh, yeah, well, I could easily just my time's gone there. I'm an old man now, but I've just been so lucky to be involved in rugby league. I've been involved in the NRL for over 30 years as a player and a coach, which is just mind blowing. So it's just been such a big part of my life. It's offered me so many great experiences. The game's done everything for me. So I can't see. I struggle to see what else I would do, and I don't. There's nothing else at the moment that it's tickling my fancy, but I'm sure I'll be able to work something out.
Yeah, that's amazing. Now, for an aspiring player that would be listening to this, or that looks up to you, or looks up to any NRL player, really, what would be your message to them if they were really wanting to be part of the game? And, as you said, some players, they come in and out week in week, they get put up one week, then the next they're dropped. What message would you be to them to potentially stick at it?
Yeah, persistence is such an important quality, but it's actually quite a rare one as well. You will not succeed in a straight line. It's very rare that happens. You're going to get setbacks, and but that's just part of the deal. Like that's where you can learn. Even things like injuries, like an injury is always a chance for personal growth, always an opportunity. It's easy to say that, but it's true. And it's like anything else. Like you just got, if you want it badly enough, you got to ride through those tough periods. You'll probably need support there. So it's important you get have a good support network around you. You understand you and can support you along the way, whether that be that sport comes in different ways. Sometimes you need to hear things you don't want to hear as well. It's not all about having cheerleaders. It's about having people that give you honest feedback and things like that. But if you want it badly enough, it's like the old saying: you want it badly enough, you can do anything, achieve anything you want. But the ones that achieve the things they want usually are the ones that stick with it for longest.
Yeah, that's amazing. Thank you so much for that. Now, I do want to end on this last thing, based on your story and your journey of where you've come to where you are today. But what's the number one life lesson that you think has made you and got you to where you are today?
Oh, number one
Yeah.
life lesson. Yeah.
Sorry to whip it on you.
Yeah. Well, I think, I think, well, I guess it's in my head after just talking about it. Like, persistence is definitely a big one. I think a really big life lesson is what we spoke about earlier. Is around, around mental health. Is actually, sharing your feelings when you're not going so well. It's about accepting that failure is part of life. It's almost like how you handle your failures can be the making of who you are, I reckon. So everyone wants to succeed. Everyone wants to, achieve goals, and that's really important. But I think failure and is the key to success. It's easy when you're winning, so to speak. But it's when you're losing, and that's when you find out who you really are. And it definitely helps, harden you for the road ahead, and you'll appreciate winning much more as well.
Incredible. And how's the 2024 season looking? Is the team looking good?
Yeah, we haven't lost a game yet, so yeah, preseason is such a big thing. It's such an important part of our season, which the supporters and your community don't really. They're just they're out there doing summer stuff and going through Christmas and holidays and just trying to work out their new year and that. But for us, it's work time. It's like it's a hard slog through summer. If you don't get it right, if you get it right, get your preseason right, you're a chance. You're a chance. In the finals, make finals and hopefully win the premiership. If you get it wrong, you won't even be playing in September. You'll hear all the time, individual players have had a great season. They'll refer back to their preseason. It's a hardening process, and physically and mentally, and it's where you kind of you get your game style going on, and huge part of our season. So you got to work the boys hard, but right on the edge of working them too hard and not breaking them. So you got to find that right balance. And yeah, it's exciting. But it's hard. It's hard work. It's hard for staff. It's hard, long days. Hard for the boys. So yeah, we're almost at the end of that. So I know the boys love when preseason ends because then they can just worry about playing. But if you don't get it right, you're no chance.
I think that's a difficult part, and that's mostly with life as well. All of us generally, we see the result. We don't see all the hard work that's gone into it, but we're happy to criticize the result or cause blame or point the finger. But at the end of the day, like as you said, there's so much time and energy and sacrifices that goes into just making game one. And I feel like even fans and everyone within the community, if we can have a bit more appreciation of the effort that goes in before hitting that field game one. The world, I think, may be a little bit kinder, but fortunately, we don't live in that world.
Yeah, it's like when you see, you go to a show or something. I went to the Tina Turner show during the year, and you just look at them and just go, man, like this is unbelievable. The way they all move and just go from one sort of scene to the next. There must be so much work goes on in the background to be able to produce that, on the big stage on the big night. So I certainly have huge respect for any performers and including our boys too.
Mm. Well, thank you so much for jumping on the podcast today in the middle of pre-season. Appreciate it so, so much, and being able to share your story and everything that you've learned through that journey with our listeners. I know I am very grateful and very privileged to be sitting here with you today. But yeah, thank you so, so much. And I wish you the best of luck in the 2024 season, and hopefully you can come out with another win.
Thank you. Thank you. I've really enjoyed it. And my pleasure. And thanks for the support. Hopefully we can too.
And as well, thank you so much to everyone else out there for joining us for another Secret Sunday session. We have had an amazing conversation with Ivan Cleary today, and you can, of course, check him and the Penrith Panthers out throughout the whole 2024 NRL season. As we said, hopefully they'll come out with another win. But otherwise, have a great day, everyone, and we'll speak to you all